Tungkasing sa himwikart sukab balekanapa sukarkuf bxer ithaluk sunquake chajna. Muse shakrat sukab plyax nathalelak quamtha takrang nikapelin paling kahipit ladkal. Takarksiak namong gamirakati ki makadkid. Zarathus unik vomit hunghale. Ki katung fetchika bwamkrings unasafrung clothy mimiker kadkid. Tidtamsi ncb lau hunkadi kachba, thalekamiak smeekerchnonge. In the early hours of dawn, the sea was quiet. A pale light stretched across the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and orange. The old man sat alone in his small boat, his eyes fixed on the water, his hands calloused from years of work. His skin, weathered and dark from the sun, felt the chill of the morning air. The sea was calm, yet it held a deep mystery, as if it were waiting for something. The old man could feel it, the pull of the ocean, like an invisible force. His fishing line cut through the water, a simple act that had been his life for as long as he could remember. The boat rocked gently, the only sound the soft splashing of waves against the wood. Then, suddenly, the line jerked violently. The old man's heart skipped a beat. He tightened his grip on the rod, feeling the weight on the other end. The struggle began, a force far greater than anything he had ever encountered. The boat rocked harder now, the waves rising higher. The old man's breath came quicker, each movement sharp and deliberate. He could feel the sweat trickling down his face, the tension in his muscles. The fish, enormous and powerful, fought with all its strength, pulling the old man deeper into the sea. With each pull, the boat creaked and groaned. The sky above darkened, clouds gathering like a storm was brewing. The old man's grip tightened on the rod. His knuckles turned white from the strain. The battle went on, minutes turning to hours. Time seemed to blur, the world around him reduced to nothing but the fight, the sea, and the line. He could hear the waves crashing louder now, as though they were alive, hungry for something. His hands were raw, the rope digging into his skin, but he refused to let go. The fish, relentless in its struggle, pulled him further out to sea. The old man's vision blurred, his body worn with exhaustion. But he would not give in. He would not let this fish defeat him. His breathing was ragged, his body aching, but the fire in his chest burned brighter. He felt his muscles scream in pain, but he kept pulling. Then, without warning, a sharp, sudden tug. The rod bent at an impossible angle. The old man's eyes widened in shock. A massive shadow broke the surface of the water. A beast unlike any he had seen before. Its scales glistened in the dim light, its eyes cold and ancient. It was more than just a fish. It was something from the deep, a creature of myth and legend. The old man's heart raced. His mind struggled to comprehend the sight before him. The beast thrashed in the water, sending waves crashing over the boat. The old man's boat was in danger of capsizing. But he held on, his body trembling, his soul determined. The sea roared, the wind howled, and the sky seemed to crack open. The moment of truth was coming. The old man's hands bled, his strength fading. But he was close now. The fish was almost within reach. He could feel it. With a final, desperate pull, the old man dragged the creature toward the boat. His breath was shallow, his body close to giving up. The fish, massive and wild, thrashed one last time. The boat rocked violently. The old man's heart pounded in his chest. His muscles burned, but he held firm. And then, the fish was in the boat. The sea fell silent. The world seemed to pause. The old man sat back, his breath coming in short gasps. He looked down at the fish. Its eyes were empty, lifeless. The old man's chest heaved with a mixture of triumph and sorrow. He had conquered the sea. But in that moment, he knew something was wrong. Something deep within him felt hollow. As the boat swayed gently in the calm water, the old man could not shake the feeling that he had crossed a line. A line that should not have been crossed. The fish, now still, was a trophy. But its weight, both physical and spiritual, was more than the old man could bear. And as the sun rose higher, casting its light over the boat, the old man's reflection on the water was no longer just his own. It was the reflection of a man who had taken more than he needed. The sea, once his companion, now seemed foreign to him. A sense of unease settled over him. He could feel it, the pull of the ocean still strong. But this time, it felt different. The old man knew he would never be the same. The sea, once a silent companion, now whispered of something darker, something more dangerous than the old man had ever realized. The boat, heavy with the weight of the fish, creaked under the strain. The sky above had turned an ashen gray, the air thick with a strange tension. The old man's hands, trembling with fatigue, still clutched the rod. But his grip had softened, as if the act of holding on had become too much to bear. The fish, its immense size now fully apparent, lay in the bottom of the boat like an otherworldly beast. Its body, still fresh with life but already beginning to stiffen, cast a shadow over the old man's heart. His eyes traced the lines of its gills, the vastness of its form. For a long moment, the boat rocked gently, the world around him completely still. No more waves, no more wind, just the soft, rhythmic sound of water lapping against the hull. But the silence was oppressive. It pressed in on the old man's chest, making it hard to breathe. He looked at the fish again. There was something unsettling about its lifeless eyes. They no longer gleamed with the wild spirit they had held moments before. They were empty, cold, and distant, as if the creature had never truly been alive at all. The old man's mind raced. Had he done the right thing? Had he crossed a boundary that could not be undone? A sharp pang of regret twisted in his stomach, gnawing at him. He had spent years fishing, years battling the sea, but never like this. This wasn't a simple catch. This fish, this thing, was different. It felt unnatural. As the minutes stretched on, the old man felt something shift inside him. The sea had never felt so alien before. The calmness of it, once comforting, now seemed like a lie. His eyes flicked nervously over the edge of the boat. He could no longer see the shore in the distance. It had vanished behind a wall of mist that had descended suddenly, as if the world had swallowed it whole. The boat rocked again, this time more sharply. The old man's heart skipped. He looked at the fish. And that was when he noticed it, something moving beneath the surface. At first, it was barely perceptible, just a shift in the water, a subtle change in the reflection of the sky. But as the boat rocked again, he saw the ripples widen, spreading outward like a growing circle, expanding slowly but surely. His pulse quickened. A cold sweat broke out across his brow. He stood up, the boat shifting beneath him. His eyes scanned the water, desperate for an explanation. There was nothing there, nothing to explain the strange movement. But it was impossible to ignore the feeling, the unmistakable sense that something was out there, something watching him. The shadows in the water seemed to shift, darker now, moving with purpose. He felt it then, a thrum, deep beneath the surface. A pulse, as if the sea itself was alive, breathing in rhythm with his own heart. The old man's breath quickened, a feeling of dread creeping over him. He couldn't see anything, but he knew. He felt it. The air had grown thick, as if it were saturated with something otherworldly. His chest tightened. He glanced at the fish again, the once prized catch now taking on a strange, ominous quality. A shadow passed beneath the boat, massive and dark, too large to be anything natural. The water churned violently beneath him. The boat lurched, almost throwing him overboard. The old man stumbled, catching himself on the edge of the boat. His heart hammered in his chest, and the blood in his veins turned cold. Suddenly, the sea roared. Not the gentle lapping he had grown accustomed to, but a deep, guttural growl that vibrated through the boat and into his bones. He looked over the edge. The water, once calm, now surged with a dark, violent energy. Something was coming. It was the fish. The old man's breath caught in his throat. But not the fish in his boat, the real fish. The one he had fought for hours to catch. It was back, the thing that had been in the water, pulling him deeper into the ocean. Now, it was circling, waiting, watching him. A chill ran through the old man's body as he turned to face the fish in the boat. The creature's form, so majestic and alive when it had first been caught, now looked wrong. It was changing. The old man's eyes widened as he watched the fish's body twitch, its skin rippling as though something beneath it was shifting. The once still eyes were now wide open, their pupils dilating in a grotesque display. The sea rumbled louder. The boat swayed dangerously, as if the very water beneath it were angry, churning with unseen forces. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the boat rocked violently. The old man lost his balance, stumbling backward. For one terrible moment, he thought he would fall into the dark abyss. But then he caught the edge of the boat and looked up. It was there. The shadow in the water had risen. The enormous fish, no longer just a fish but something more, lunged at the old man, battered and broken, could feel the weight of the world pushing him under. His limbs, once strong and capable, now felt like they were made of stone. The boat, filled with water, teetered dangerously. He knew the sea was winning. The great fish swirled beneath him, its massive body cutting through the water with terrifying grace. It had become a force of nature, an embodiment of the ocean's ancient power, and now it was coming for him. But the old man didn't look away. With the last of his strength, he reached for the harpoon, his fingers trembling as they brushed against the cold steel. It felt heavy in his hand, a weapon of finality. He raised it weakly, his eyes locking on the glowing, emerald eyes of the beast. For a long moment, everything was still. The world seemed to hold its breath. The boat rocked, water swirling in the growing waves, but the old man and the fish stared at one another, locked in a silent battle of wills. Then, with a roar that shook the air itself, the creature lunged. The old man, with all the fury of a lifetime spent at sea, thrust the harpoon forward. It struck with a sickening thud, plunging deep into the heart of the beast. For an instant, the sea fell silent. The old man's breath came in ragged gasps, his heart racing. The creature writhed in agony, its great body thrashing in the water, sending a spray of saltwater into the air. The boat rocked violently, nearly capsizing in the wake of the creature's final struggle. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, it was over. The great fish, defeated, sank beneath the waves, its body slowly disappearing into the depths of the sea. The water around the boat calmed, as if the ocean itself had decided to rest. The old man sat, still gripping the harpoon, his eyes fixed on the spot where the fish had disappeared. He felt the weight of the moment. The battle was over, but it had cost him everything. The sun, now high in the sky, bathed the sea in golden light. The world felt vast, stretching beyond what the old man could comprehend. But in that moment, he felt something shift inside him. He wasn't sure if it was relief or sadness. He wasn't sure if it was triumph or defeat. But the storm that had raged within him for hours, for days, seemed to have passed. The old man looked down at his hands, raw, blistered, and trembling. His body was broken, but his spirit was something else entirely. The fish in the boat was gone, but the sea remained. And the old man had given his everything to it. For a long while, he just sat there, letting the boat drift aimlessly in the calm waters, the horizon before him a blur of blue and gold. There was nothing left to do now but wait. And wait he did, as the sun slowly dipped toward the horizon. The night would come soon enough, but for now, he let the ocean's endless rhythm soothe his weary heart. As the stars began to appear, one by one, the old man closed his eyes. The sea had taken much from him, but it had also given him something. He had fought the ocean, and the ocean had not broken him. The old man smiled, faintly, a whisper of peace across his lips. He could hear the waves, gentle and persistent, lapping at the sides of the boat. And with that sound, he fell into a quiet, restful sleep, his journey, at last, complete.